What if time were a cycle? Mayan wisdom, consciousness, and spirituality. What if time were not a straight line, but a dance of cycles repeating over and over again? For most of us, time is something that runs, something measured by clocks, calendars, and deadlines. We live looking ahead, trying to reach the next day, the next week, or the next year. But for the ancient Maya, time seemed to hold a much deeper meaning. It was not merely a tool for organizing daily life. It was an expression of the order of the universe, a visible manifestation of the rhythms that connect human beings with nature, the stars, and the cosmos. The Maya were extraordinary observers of the sky. For centuries, they tracked the movements of the sun, the moon, and Venus with a precision that continues to amaze researchers today. Through their observation of celestial cycles, they developed sophisticated systems for measuring time. Yet for them, time appears to have been far more than a mathematical calculation. It was also a spiritual experience. While many modern societies understand time as an arrow moving relentlessly toward the future, the Maya viewed it as a succession of cycles that emerge, unfold, conclude, and begin anew. The rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, the changing seasons, the growth of plants, human life itself. Everything seemed to participate in the same cosmic breath. Among the best-known Mayan calendars is the Tzolk'in, a sacred ceremonial calendar composed of interwoven cycles that create a sequence of 260 days. Although scholars continue to study its precise origins, many agree that it was deeply connected to ritual life, observation of nature, and the spiritual organization of the community. Each day carried unique qualities within a vast network of meaning. It was not simply about counting time. It was about understanding the moment being lived. This perspective invites us to consider an intriguing question. Is it possible that different moments carry different qualities? Could there be cycles of learning, transformation, and renewal not only in nature, but also within our own lives? For the Maya, observing the heavens was never separate from the human experience. The universe was perceived as an interconnected whole. The movements of celestial bodies, the changing seasons, and the events of everyday life were all part of the same ongoing conversation between Earth and cosmos. This is one reason rituals held such an important place in Mayan culture. They were not simply traditions performed out of habit. They were ways of consciously participating in the cycles of existence. Through offerings, ceremonies, and astronomical observations, communities renewed their relationship with the forces of nature and the rhythms they perceived throughout the universe. From a modern perspective, some of these practices may seem distant or difficult to understand. Yet the idea of living in harmony with natural cycles continues to appear in many contemporary approaches to life and consciousness. Researchers, philosophers, and explorers of human awareness have begun asking whether ancient cultures developed ways of observing reality that we are only beginning to rediscover. Some study the relationship between human perception and biological rhythms. Others explore how natural cycles influence emotions, creativity, and personal growth. And while the answers remain open to discussion, the questions themselves remain deeply fascinating. What happens when we stop seeing time as a race? What changes when we begin to experience it as a process of transformation? Perhaps one of the greatest lessons we can find in the Mayan worldview has little to do with predicting the future. Perhaps it has more to do with learning how to observe the cycles of nature. to observe the movements of the heavens, to observe the seasons of our own lives. Because when we pay attention to cycles, we discover that nothing remains still. Everything is born. Everything evolves. Everything transforms. And everything eventually finds a new beginning. Perhaps this is why many ancient cultures considered time sacred, not because it was separate from everyday life, but because it was present within every moment of it, in the movement of the stars, in the growth of a seed, in the journey of the sun across the horizon, and in the invisible processes unfolding within every human being. Today we live surrounded by clocks, digital calendars, and constant notifications. Yet we rarely pause to ask ourselves what our relationship with time truly is. The Maya observed the skies for generations in order to understand the great cycles of existence. Perhaps the invitation they leave us is not simply to look toward the stars. Perhaps it is to remember that we, too, are part of those same cycles, and that every ending carries the potential for a new beginning. In our next episode, we will explore why Mayan wisdom continues to inspire people around the world today. What really happened behind the interpretations surrounding the year 2012? And what questions still inspire those seeking to understand the relationship between humanity, consciousness, and the cosmos?